The collection will try to cut off the head and leave the tail. If you enjoy watching, please support by liking, sharing and commenting. This is definitely one of the most thrilling horror movies in recent years. The most exciting horror film. It is adapted from the Slavic horror legend of the Rusalka. Once released, it became a midnight nightmare for countless people. Friendly reminder, the film is intense throughout. Hurry and watch it with your friends. According to rumors in Slavic mythology, there is a creature that lives at the bottom of the sea, a monster resembling a mermaid. Whenever night falls, she transforms into a beautiful young girl. She approaches the lake, combing her hair, while hunting any man she sets her sights on. And the man standing by the lake seems to have seen something terrifying. He stands there motionless. The wife notices that her husband is acting strangely, so she cautiously approaches to check on him. But just as she reaches behind her husband, he suddenly turns back slowly. Seeing this, the wife hurriedly leans over the lake to take a look, but the surface of the lake instantly returned to calm. Just when she was at a loss, her husband suddenly emerged from the lake. Then he desperately swam toward the shore. Only after climbing up did he finally let out a sigh of relief. Unexpectedly, in the next second, his wife seemed to be pulled by some invisible force, suddenly yanked into the lake. She immediately swam toward the shore. Her husband also reached out to help from above, but just then, a ghostly hand suddenly emerged from the lake surface, instantly pulling his wife down. From then on, there was no news of her. But the father not only failed to realize the danger, he also gave the lakeside villa to his son, as a wedding gift for Xiaoshe. I must say, he really is a good father. But it was precisely this action that would make Xiaoshe face again the same horrifying scene he faced back then. Such an exciting plot. I must share this with my girlfriend. Are you still watching movies alone in solitude? Why not give it a try? Log on and precisely locate single beauties in the city. Easily meet new friends nearby. Enough talk, I'm going to find some cute girls to spend the last night of singlehood. Xiao Shuai took 3 to 5 friends with him. They drove together to that house by the lake. They partied freely there, enjoying beer and girls. But after a few drinks, Xiao Shuai suddenly couldn't handle the alcohol, so he went alone to the lakeside. He wanted to sober himself up, but the deeper he swam, the more he felt the water was freezing. It felt like something was slowly approaching him. Xiao Shuai looked back in terror, but he saw nothing. Only a few bubbles continued to rise. In the dead of night, experiencing something like this suddenly, the young master couldn't help but feel a bit scared, so he immediately turned back. However, just as he reached the shore, he unexpectedly saw a woman with blonde hair not far away. A woman with blonde hair appeared. He saw the woman standing there, wet. She was wearing the young master's clothes. She was also holding a comb in her hand. In her eyes, there seemed to be a hint of affection. Then, with ulterior motives, she began to comb her hair. Seeing the woman's charming appearance, the young master was immediately enchanted, losing his senses. He couldn't help but walk toward the woman, without asking where she came from. He sought only this moment of intimacy. Do you love me? The young master stayed by the lake all night without returning, until his friend came to look for him. Only then did he finally come to his senses. At that moment, he was constantly calling out for the girl from last night, but his friend said that in this wilderness, there couldn't possibly be any girl. Saying this, he helped the young master prepare to go back, but as his friend looked down, he accidentally discovered the comb. He didn't think much of it. He turned around and took the comb back with him. Little did he know that the 2.5 seconds of intimacy from last night would become a lifelong nightmare for Xiaoshe. After returning, Xiaoshe intended to take a bath to relax first. However, just as he was halfway through, the bathroom suddenly ran out of water. Meanwhile, the shower in the next bathroom was inexplicably turned on. Seeing this scene, Xiaoshe couldn't help but feel a bit strange, but he never noticed the terrifying ghostly figure that suddenly appeared behind him. Xiaoshe turned around and went to the next bathroom to continue washing, but shortly after he started washing again, the same situation happened again, and it was at this moment that he heard continuous door slams from behind. Xiaoshe went to check, puzzled, but the scene before him made him quite perplexed. Looking at the door that kept closing in front of him, Xiaoshe thought to himself, when he had just arrived at the bathroom, there was clearly no one there. How could the wardrobe door suddenly close now? So he slowly walked over to see what was going on, but after a thorough check, he found nothing unusual. At this point, Xiaoshe was completely baffled, and just when he was extremely puzzled, a ghostly shadow suddenly appeared behind him. Immediately after, a familiar voice also reached Xiaoshuai's ears. Do you love me? Xiaoshe was so scared that he hurried back home, lying in bed, trembling with fear, until Xiaomei came to see him. He finally felt a little better. But then, while Xiaomei was doing her boyfriend's laundry, she discovered the comb, but she wasn't sure what Xiaoshe had done. So she contacted Xiaoshuai's sister, to ask if she had seen this comb before. The sister focused her gaze. Suddenly, she felt something familiar, so she kept searching on the computer. And indeed, it turned up in a photo. She found the same comb. But right after that, beneath a nearby cup, a large amount of water stains suddenly appeared. It seemed like some kind of warning, but they didn't pay any attention to it. They continued with what they were doing. Xiao Shuai continued practicing swimming in the pool. Xiao Mei also went to the kitchen to wash dishes. However, at that moment, she suddenly heard some noise outside the door. She thought her boyfriend had returned. Xiao Mei went outside to check, but the corridor was empty. Only the bathroom door was opened. She thought her boyfriend had gone into the bathroom to take a shower, so she went to the door to take a look. To her shock, she discovered that on her boyfriend's head, a terrifying ghostly hand had suddenly appeared. But after she opened the door, it vanished in an instant. All that was left was that strange comb, lying still in the bathtub. Xiao Mei didn't think much of it. She stepped forward and took out the comb. Unexpectedly, the next second, Xiao Mei was terrified by the nightmare and gasping for breath. Fortunately, Xiao Shui noticed something was off, so he gently comforted her. "Little rabbit, don't be afraid." Only then did Xiao Mei gradually relax. After comforting his girlfriend, Xiao Shui continued to go to the swimming pool for training. But as soon as he jumped into the pool, it felt like he sensed something was wrong. He saw that the originally crystal clear pool suddenly became murky, and even the surroundings were overgrown with tangled weeds. Seeing this, Xiao Shui hurriedly surfaced, only to be horrified to find that at some point he had actually seen that lakeshore from before. Even that strange woman suddenly appeared in front of Xiao Shui. "Do you love me?" Xiao Shui was scared out of his wits by this scene. Everyone saw that something was off with him, so they immediately took him to the hospital. Remembering the woman he had encountered by the river, and the strange events he had experienced in the past few days, Xiao Shuai could no longer withstand the pressure, and thus explained the whole situation in detail to his girlfriend. Xiao Mei heard these words, and regardless of whether the woman by the river was human or ghost, she immediately thought that Xiao Shuai had wronged her. So without saying a word, she left the hospital room. Seeing that his girlfriend was sulking, Xiao Shuai didn't care about his weak body. He immediately got out of bed to find his girlfriend. At the corner of the hospital, he saw his girlfriend walk into a room with his own eyes. But when he walked in, he was shocked to see two girlfriends standing still right in front of him. Xiao Shuai was instantly tripped to the ground by an evil force. He was just about to get up, when suddenly he heard a strange sound. It seemed that there was something behind the curtain. But when Dao Zhuang kicked open the door, there was nothing in front of him. Only Xiao Shuai lay motionless on the ground. But if it weren't for seeing it with their own eyes, I'm afraid in the end, they still would not believe what Xiao Shuai said. At the same time, it was precisely because of this that they finally understood just how dangerous Xiao Shuai was at that moment. So they immediately took that comb and braved the heavy rain to come to Xiao Shuai's father's house. Only then did they finally hear from the other party the ins and outs of the whole matter. Hearing his father's words, Xiao Shuai couldn't help but think, "I've seen fathers who are a drain, but I've never seen one who drains his son. You really are a good dad. But since this has already happened, regret is futile. Now the only thing they have to do is to find a way to eliminate that woman." At this moment, they inadvertently recalled all the strange occurrences they had experienced these days had all begun after they found that comb. So Xiao Mei guessed the source of all this was likely related to that comb. Perhaps only by destroying the comb would the bizarre events stop happening. So in order to send the woman back to where she came from, Xiao Mei used an exorcism method she read about in a book. When night fell, she held an exorcism ceremony. First, she filled a bowl with lake water and arranged candles around it. Then she placed the comb into the basin. After doing all this, she picked up a mirror and began to chant incantations in front of it. Sure enough, before long, the comb in the basin instantly disappeared, and the door was suddenly locked with a clang. In the pitch-black room, a chilling wind began to blow. Xiao Mei was so scared she didn't dare to breathe. But as soon as she turned her head, she saw the woman appear in the mirror. Xiao Mei hurriedly turned back around. The woman disappeared in an instant again, just as she was feeling anxious and uneasy. In the next second, right after that, Xiao Mei suddenly found herself in another world. Here, she saw the tragic past behind this terrifying woman. It turns out the woman once had a happy relationship, but when it came time to discuss marriage, she unexpectedly discovered that her beloved fiancé had secretly gotten together with another person behind her back. The woman was heartbroken upon seeing this, yet the other party continued to mock her without restraint. After a series of malicious words, the woman's mental state completely shattered, and the scream she let out actually shattered the mirror in front of her. She then picked up the glass shards from the ground. Without hesitation, she put this couple in their place. Then she ran to the lakeside and jumped in without a second thought. However, there was no sound coming from the room for a long time. Xiao Shuai could no longer wait. He rushed over directly. He repeatedly slammed his body against the door, but the door remained completely still. For this reason, Xiao Shuai picked up an axe from the side Only then did he finally manage to open the door. Unexpectedly, as soon as he entered, he found the room filled with fog. He couldn't see a single figure at all, but in order to save his girlfriend, he still plucked up the courage to step inside. Just as Xiao Shuai was struggling to feel his way around, a hand suddenly grabbed him. "Do you love me?" Xiao Shuai hadn't had a chance to respond, and he was horrified to discover that another Xiao Mei appeared beside him. Then came a third one, a fourth, a fifth. "Do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me?" Countless Xiao Meis repeatedly asked Xiao Shuai the same question. As they pressed closer, Xiao Shuai felt like his brain was about to explode, but in the end, he still relied on his love for his girlfriend. Among countless fakes, he identified who the real Xiao Mei was. At the same time, it was precisely this kiss that completely made the woman retreat. Immediately after, the stone tablet at the bottom of the lake shattered. The door slowly opened as well. Everything finally returned to calm. But just as they were about to go back, they didn't see Da Zhuang's figure for a long time. So, Xiao Shuai immediately went to the room to look for him. Unexpectedly, he found him in the basement, where Da Zhuang was found barely alive. It seems that they had underestimated the situation. The woman was still entangling them. For this reason, the group immediately drove away. But just as the car entered a grove, it suddenly stopped in place. No matter how they tried, they couldn't start the engine. Xiao Shuai thought the car was broken down. He immediately got out to check. He left Xiao Mei and her sister in the car, and it was at this moment that Xiao Mei saw the woman again. Roman. Immediately after, a large amount of lake water suddenly surged into the car. At that moment, the car door locked tightly. Xiao Mei desperately pounded on the glass with her arms, but it was utterly futile, as it seemed she was about to drown in the lake water. Xiao She, in a moment of desperation, directly lifted a stone and slammed it down hard. Only then did he finally save both of them. After this incident, Xiao Shuai's sister suddenly realized that there was no escaping. Perhaps the only way to end this was to offer Xiao Mei to the woman. So she took advantage of Xiao Mei's distraction and directly tied her up. But just as she was about to act, she was suddenly stopped by her father. The woman's resentment cannot be completely resolved by sacrificing one or two people. Can be completely resolved. Unexpectedly, just as the words left her mouth, the woman suddenly appeared behind her and facing the woman who had taken his wife away. Father, however, showed no signs of fear at all. He simply walked up to the woman and appealed to her emotions. But the reason the woman became a vengeful spirit was because she always believed there wasn't a single good man in the world. Immediately after, she revealed her true form. Seeing this, her sister quickly jumped in to help, but in the end, she only managed to grab a strand of the woman's hair. As it looked like her sister was about to falter, Xiao Mei hurriedly untied the ropes on her hands, then quickly found a pair of scissors. She cut the hair off right there. Only then did the room finally return to calm. But not long after, a scream like that of a slaughtered pig suddenly echoed throughout the entire room. Looking at the scene before her, Xiao Mei suddenly realized that perhaps if she just cut the woman's hair, she could completely kill her. With this thought, she didn't hesitate and went straight to the lakeside. Unexpectedly, she saw her boyfriend, already tormented by the woman to the point of wishing for death. He lay convulsing on the shore. Upon seeing this situation, Xiao Mei could no longer bear it. She grabbed the scissors and jumped into the lake. Grabbing the woman's hair, she swiftly cut through. She quickly eliminated her in an instant, and with a hysterical scream, the guy on the shore finally returned to normal. The two, having survived a disaster, embraced tightly. But at that moment, Xiao She suddenly felt something was off, because when he was with Xiao Mei, he had never seen her swim. Thinking of this, he immediately grabbed the scissors and cut the woman's hair with a snap. Until the woman completely collapsed into the lake. This matter finally settled down, and Xiao She also found the real Xiao Mei. The two thus lived a shameless life. But for some reason, ever since that accident, Xiao Mei kept playing with her hair. It was as if she had become a different person. That's all for today's story. Subscribe to the channel to continue watching. See you next time.